The worst kind of betrayal isn't loud. It's quiet, helpful, supportive. It looks like your best friend showing up when your life is falling apart. When Erica's marriage collapsed, she trusted the one person who never left her side. She had no idea that woman was slowly erasing her life, piece by piece. The tea was always perfect. That was the first thing Erica would remember later, the terrifying, domestic precision of it. Stephanie Miller would glide into the sun drenched breakfast nook of the Whitaker Manor, smelling of expensive eucalyptus and supportive energy. She'd place a steaming mug of artisanal oolong tea in front of Erica, her movements fluid and practiced. Drink up, darling, Stephanie would coo, her voice a soothing, low frequency hum. You've got that deposition today. You need your nerves steady. I added a bit of valerian and a calming blend I found at the apothecary. You're literally vibrating, and we can't have Jonathan seeing you weak. Erica, whose mind felt like it was being viewed through a thick sheet of frosted glass, would offer a grateful, weary smile. She didn't notice that the calming blend was precisely calibrated to turn her sharp, systems analysis brain into a bowl of lukewarm oatmeal. She only knew that her best friend from college, the woman who had held her hair back after sorority mixers and cheered the loudest at her wedding, was the only thing keeping her upright while her 15-year marriage to Jonathan Whitaker imploded like a controlled demolition. Jonathan was not a man who moved through a divorce. He moved through a scorched earth campaign. To him, the global logistics empire he'd built wasn't just a business, it was a kingdom. And in Jonathan's theology, there was no room for a queen who wanted to abdicate. When Erica filed the papers, citing irreconcilable differences, which was society speak for, I'm tired of being a trophy on a shelf, Jonathan had looked at her with the cold, predatory curiosity. You're quitting, Erica? He'd asked, his voice a low rattle. I don't lose assets, I liquidate them. Stephanie, ever the strategist, had moved into the guest suite the very next day. To protect you, she'd said, to be your gatekeeper. But as Erica spent her afternoons in a sedative induced haze, staring at the manicured hedges of the estate, Stephanie was a whirlwind of helpful productivity in the home office. I'll organize the legal files, honey, Stephanie would say, clicking away on Erica's MacBook Pro. The discovery process is so tedious, and you shouldn't have to look at the numbers. It'll only break your heart. It was a master class in the soft touch. While Erica slept, Stephanie's fingers danced across the keyboard. With the predatory grace of a digital parasite, she utilized Erica's saved passwords and her cached digital signature. She wasn't just organizing files, she was weaving a web. Stephanie began with the Whitaker Foundation, Jonathan's pride and joy, a multi-billion-dollar charity that served as the family's moral compass and, more importantly, their biggest tax shield. Stephanie moved $60,000, then 80, then 100. Tiny drops from a massive bucket diverted into an offshore account she had opened in Erica's name using a scanned copy of Erica's passport. To the casual observer, it looked like a desperate wife siphoning off the war chest before the freeze hit. To Jonathan, it was going to look like treason. The brilliance of Stephanie's betrayal wasn't just the theft, it was the theatricality. One Tuesday afternoon, Jonathan stormed into the manor to retrieve some essential document. He found the home office empty, but a laptop sat open on the mahogany desk. It was Erica's. On the screen was a half finished email to a travel agent in Zurich discussing school enrollments in a country without an extradition treaty. Below it, a bank statement for a secret savings account showed a balance that matched the exact deficit in the Whitaker Foundation's monthly audit. Stephanie stumbled into the room just as Jonathan's face turned the color of a bruised plum. Jonathan, oh God, you weren't supposed to see that. Stephanie gasped, her hand flying to her throat in a gesture of pure Shakespearean alarm. I I tried to tell her it was a mistake. I told her you'd find out. Please, don't be angry with her. She's scared. Scared? Jonathan roared, the sound vibrating the crystal decanters on the sideboard. She's a thief. She's trying to take my children to Switzerland on my charity's dime. She's just looking for a fresh start, Stephanie whispered, moving closer, her hand resting tentatively on his arm, a touch that was 5% comfort and 95% tether. She's not herself, Jonathan. The divorce has made her unstable. Within 48 hours, the trap snapped shut. Erica woke up on Thursday to find her key cards deactivated. Her personal cell phone, part of the family plan, had been remotely wiped. When she tried to drive to her lawyer's office, a private security team blocked the driveway. Mr. Whitaker has filed an emergency injunction, ma'am, the guard said, his face a mask of stone. Allegations of grand larceny and flight risk. You're to vacate the premises immediately. Your personal effects will be forwarded to the Willow Creek Motel. Erica looked around for Stephanie, her anchor, her sister. She found her standing on the grand portico, framed by the massive white pillars of the house. Stephanie wasn't wearing her usual yoga gear. She was wearing Erica's favorite cream-colored power suit. I'm so sorry, Erica, Stephanie called out, her voice dripping with the fake sticky pity that made Erica's skin crawl. I told the judge I'd stay here to keep things stable for the kids while you get the help you need. It's for the best, truly. As the gates of the estate swung shut, Erica sat in the back of a disgruntled Uber, staring at the blurry world through the window. Her head was finally beginning to clear. The herbal relaxants were wearing off, and for the first time in weeks, the systems analyst was coming back online. She reached into her handbag and felt the cold, hard corner of her old iPad, the one she'd replaced months ago, the one Stephanie thought was just a paperweight in the bedside drawer. Erica turned it on. The screen flickered, searching for Wi-Fi. Do you have Wi-Fi? Erica asked. Yeah, the driver said, glancing at her in the mirror. I've got a hotspot. Then the notification ping started. Dozens of them. Photo sync complete. Notes updated. Stephanie had forgotten the first rule of a digital takeover. Never use a synced device if you're going to commit a crime. Erica watched as a photo appeared on the screen. A screenshot Stephanie had taken of the forged signatures, followed by a selfie Stephanie had taken in Erica's mirror, wearing Erica's diamonds, with a caption saved in her drafts. The upgrade is complete. Erica leaned back against the stained fabric of the Uber seat and felt a cold, jagged smile spread across her face. You want to play with architecture, Stephanie? Erica whispered, low enough that the driver couldn't hear. Let's see how you handle a structural collapse. The Willow Creek Motel was a symphony of flickering neon and the smell of stale microwave popcorn, a far cry from the high thread count sanctuary of the Whitaker Manor. Erica sat on the edge of a bed that felt like it was stuffed with recycled disappointment, her face illuminated by the harsh blue glow of her old iPad. For the first 48 hours, she didn't cry. Crying was a luxury for people who weren't being framed for international embezzlement. Instead, she let the systems analyst take the wheel. She mapped the logic of Stephanie's heist like she was debugging a failing server. Efficiency is your weakness, Steph, Erica murmured, her fingers flying across the cracked screen. You're so busy being me that you've forgotten I'm still here. Because Stephanie had hijacked Erica's primary MacBook and iPhone, she assumed the digital transition was total. But the old iPad, the legacy device, was a silent witness. It was still tethered to the family iCloud, a ghost haunting the machine. Every time Stephanie took a victory selfie in Erica's walk-in closet or snapped a photo of a forged foundation check to remind herself of the amount, The data beamed straight to the motel room. It was a digital diary of a sociopath. Erica watched in real time as Stephanie's phase 2 unfolded. A note appeared in the shared cloud: Jonathan's ego maintenance. Beneath it was a bulleted list that made Erica's stomach turn. Monday, compliment his visionary logistics update. Mention Erica always found it boring. Tuesday, where are the Navy Galanos? His favorite. Remind him Erica lost the matching earrings. Erica checked her feed. Stephanie had actually hidden the earrings in a vent. Wednesday, accidental physical contact during the budget review. Increase the soft touch. But the real treasure was the disposal folder. Stephanie had screen recorded her use of a signature mimic software, a high-end tool used by architects to perfectly trace Erica's looping cursive into the wire transfer authorizations. She'd even kept a spreadsheet of the herbal blend dosages she'd been slipping into Erica's tea, tracking exactly how foggy Erica needed to be for certain documents to be witnessed. You kept receipts for your own crimes? Erica whispered, a jagged laugh escaping her throat. Professional greed. I almost respect it. Back at the mansion, the replacement was near total. Stephanie had officially been appointed as the corporate secretary for Whitaker Logistics. She had hired Erica's hairstylist, Mr. Julian, to replicate the signature bob, and she was currently presiding over the children's dinner like a substitute teacher who had decided to stay forever. Jonathan, fueled by the righteous fury of a man betrayed, was putty in Stephanie's hands. She was the loyal friend who had stayed behind to clean up the mess. She was the one who listened to his rants about the unstable thief he'd married. She was becoming indispensable, a structural load-bearing wall in his collapsing life. But Stephanie made her fatal error on Friday night. A photo synced to the iPad. It was a screenshot of a private encrypted chat between Stephanie and a contact named M. Price, the same disgraced attorney from a previous society scandal. Price: the foundation funds are settled in the E. Whitaker account. Jonathan suspects nothing? Stephanie: he's too busy hating her to see me. Once we hit the $2 million mark at the gala, I'll leak his offshore tax evasion to the feds. He goes to prison, I stay as the guardian of the kids and the shares. I'm not just going to be the wife, Malcolm. I'm going to be the successor. Erica felt a chill that had nothing to do with the motel's broken heater. Stephanie wasn't just stealing the divorce settlement. She was planning a total hostile takeover of the Whitaker legacy. She was going to orphan Erica's children socially and financially. Erica picked up the motel's landline and dialed a number she knew by heart. It was a private line to an IT director at the Grand Metropolitan, the venue for the upcoming Whitaker Foundation Gala. Leo, it's Erica Whitaker. Remember that internship I gave you 10 years ago? The one where I told you that in system security, the biggest threat is always an authorized user with a grudge? Erica, where have you been? The news says... The news is a script written by third-rate actress, Leo. I need a favor. I need God mode access to the gala's visual servers for 30 minutes. And I need you to keep a secret. For you, anything. But Erica, Jonathan has security everywhere. I don't need to be in the room to burn the house down, Leo, Erica said, her eyes reflecting the cold blue light of the iPad. I just need to be the ghost in the machine. As she hung up, Erica began to compile the special presentation. She didn't just want the money back. She wanted the erasure. She wanted the world to see the softest knife as it was being pulled from the sheath. She opened her maiden name bank account, one Stephanie didn't know existed, and used her last few $100s to book a high-end mobile transformation team. If she was going to the gala, she wasn't going as a victim. She was going as the forensic architect. 1 week, Steph, Erica said to the flickering neon sign outside. Enjoy the silk suits. They're going to be very uncomfortable when the feds are putting you in zip ties. The Grand Metropolitan Ballroom was a cavern of gold leaf, white orchids, and the kind of old money silence that only 300 millionaires can produce. At the center of the storm was Jonathan Whitaker, looking every bit the Titan, and at his side, radiant in a vintage Chanel gown that had been tailored for Erica, was Stephanie. Stephanie was glowing. She had spent the last hour accepting condolences for the Erica tragedy with the practiced, somber grace. She was the hero of the hour, the woman who had stepped into the breach to save the Whitaker children from their unstable mother. "You're doing a wonderful job, Stephanie," a senator's wife whispered. "Jonathan is lucky to have a friend like you." "I just do what's best for the family," Stephanie replied, her eyes tracking the waitstaff. She was looking for the signal. Tonight was the night she would hit the $2 million mark in the E. Whitaker account, and tomorrow, the anonymous tip about Jonathan's tax evasion would hit the FBI's inbox. In the back of the room, hidden behind a velvet curtain in the AV booth, Leo checked his monitors. His hands were sweating. "She's logged in, Erica. You're live." Erica sat in a parked car 3 blocks away, her laptop tethered to a secure satellite uplink. She was wearing a headset, her face cold and focused. "On my mark, Leo, let Jonathan finish his intro. I want him to feel the highest he's ever felt before the drop." On stage, Jonathan tapped the microphone. The room went silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jonathan began, his voice booming with the confidence of a king, "the Whitaker Foundation stands for integrity. Tonight, we celebrate a record breaking year of giving. To show you the impact of your generosity, I'd like to share a special presentation curated by our new corporate secretary, Stephanie." Stephanie beamed, stepping slightly forward to share the spotlight. She looked up at the massive 40-foot LED screens behind the stage, expecting to see a montage of grateful children and logistics maps. The screen flickered. It didn't show a charity video. It showed a high-resolution screenshot of a notes app. The header read, "Erica Disposals, Phase 3. The ballroom went so quiet you could hear the bubbles popping in the champagne flute. Jonathan turned around, his brow furrowed. "Leo, what is this? Wrong file." But the slides began to advance automatically. Slide 2, a video clip, silent but crystal clear, of Stephanie sitting at the kitchen island, meticulously measuring white powder from a vial into a steaming mug of tea. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. Erica had installed cameras earlier when the children were smaller. Baby monitors that became security cameras. Routine, unremarkable, and always on. Slide 3, a screen recording of the signature mimic software. The cursor, controlled by Stephanie's login, was tracing Erica Whitaker onto a wire transfer for $250,000. Slide 4, the encrypted chat with M. Price. The words filled the screen in giant white letters. "He's too busy hating her to see me. Once we hit the $2 million mark at the gala, I'll leak his tax evasion to the feds. I'm not just trying to be the wife, Malcolm. I'm the successor." Stephanie's face went from radiant to the color of ash. She turned toward the AV booth, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Turn it off! That's a hack! Jonathan, it's a deep fake!" Jonathan didn't look at the screen anymore. He looked at Stephanie. The man who didn't lose assets finally realized he had been the ultimate mark. But the ghost in the machine wasn't finished. The final slide appeared. It wasn't a note or a photo. It was a live map. A red dot was pulsing over a specific safety deposit box at a branch in the city, the one Stephanie had opened under her maiden name. Beneath the map, a text box scrolled, "Dear IRS and FBI, the stolen $2 million and the ledger for the tax evasion are in box 402. The key is in the lining of the Chanel clutch Stephanie is currently holding. Regards, the architect." Suddenly, The back doors of the ballroom burst open. Four men in windbreakers marked FBI didn't move for the stage. They moved for the exit, cutting off Stephanie's path. Erica, watching the feed from her car, hit the final key on her laptop. A pre-timed email containing 4 gigabytes of forensic data, every screenshot, every dosage log, and every forged signature hit the inbox of every major news outlet and the district attorney simultaneously. Checkmate, Steph, Erica whispered. In the ballroom, Stephanie finally snapped. As the agents reached for her, she didn't weep or plead. She swung her Chanel clutch at Jonathan's head, screaming, "You think I wanted you? You're a dinosaur, Jonathan. You're a bloated, arrogant ego with the checkbook. I was the only one smart enough to run this company." As the handcuffs clicked shut over her lace sleeves, the softest knife was finally exposed for the jagged piece of scrap metal it really was. Jonathan stood alone on the stage, the gold leaf and white orchids now looking like ruins of a lost civilization. He looked into the camera on the podium, knowing Erica was watching. He looked broken, small, and for the first time in his life, genuinely ashamed. Erica closed her laptop. She didn't stay to watch the arrest. She put the car in gear and drove away from the Grand Metropolitan, the blue light of the iPad finally fading into the rear view mirror. The air in the high rise conference room of Whitaker Logistics was so thin it felt like it had been filtered through ice. Jonathan sat at the head of the table, stripped of his bravado. He looked like a man who had spent 48 hours staring into a mirror and finally seeing the cracks. Opposite him sat Erica. She wasn't wearing a society wife dress. She was back in her uniform, a charcoal gray tailored suit, hair pulled back, and a legal pad that was already half filled with calculations. She looked less like his ex wife and more like his impending bankruptcy. "Erica," Jonathan began, his voice raspy, "about the kids and the way I let her—" "Stop." Erica raised a single hand. "We aren't here for an apology, Jonathan. Apologies are for people who forget birthdays. You collaborated in the systematic destruction of the mother of your children because your ego was bruised. We are here for the math." Erica's lawyer, a woman who looked like she chewed glass for breakfast, slid a single sheet of paper across the table. 30 minutes, Jonathan," Erica said, checking her watch. "That's all I'm giving you before I hand the rest of the files, the ones I didn't show at the gala, to the SEC. You know, the ones about the logistics of your offshore fuel subsidies." Jonathan's lead counsel reached for the paper, but Jonathan held up a hand to stop him. He read the list himself. 1. The mansion. Total title transfer to Erica. 2. The Aspen estate. Total title transfer to Erica. 3. The foundation. Dissolved. Remaining assets transferred to a new trust managed solely by Erica for the children. 4. The reputational damage payout. A lump sum that made the lawyer's eyes water. 5. Sole physical custody, with supervised visitation for Jonathan after he completes 6 months of therapy. "This isn't a settlement," Jonathan's lawyer sputtered. "This is a liquidation. You're taking 60% of his net worth." "I'm taking what I built," Erica countered, her voice dropping to a dangerous low-frequency hum. "While Jonathan was out conquering the world, I was the one who designed the software that tracks every shipment in his fleet. I built the architecture he lives in. He just put his name on the front door. And considering I'm keeping him out of federal penitentiary by not mentioning the fuel subsidies, I'd say he's getting a bargain." Jonathan looked at Erica. He saw the woman he'd ignored for a decade, the brilliant systems analyst he tried to turn into a decorative ornament. He realized that the ghost in the machine had always been the one running the house. "I'll sign it," Jonathan whispered to his lawyer. "Jonathan, we can litigate—" "I'll sign it." The scratching of the fountain pen was the only sound in the room. When the final page was flipped, Erica stood up. She didn't offer a handshake. She didn't offer a look of pity. The movers will be at the house at noon, she said. I've already had the locks changed. Stephanie's things have been moved to the city dump. I suggest you find a hotel that doesn't have Whitaker on the marquee. It's time you learned how to be a tenant instead of a landlord. Erica walked out of the boardroom, her heels clicking a steady, rhythmic beat of victory. As the elevators closed, she looked at her reflection in the polished chrome. The architecture of a takeover was complete, but she hadn't just taken over a company, she had reclaimed herself. The Pacific fog rolled over the jagged cliffs of Caramel by the Sea, smelling of salt and ancient cypress. In a minimalist studio overlooking the surf, the only sound was the rhythmic, clinical click-clack of a high-end mechanical keyboard. Erica Whitaker, now simply Erica Robinson, having reclaimed her maiden name like a suit of armor, sat at her desk. She wasn't managing flower arrangements or a seating chart. She was a partner at Alethea Forensic Systems, a firm she'd built from the ashes of her old life. She spent her days hunting the very kind of predators she had once hosted for dinner. Her life was quiet. It was calculated. It was hers. The morning mail sat on the corner of her desk. Amidst the professional journals and property tax statements was a smudged gray envelope with a blue stamp in the corner. Central Women's Correctional Facility. Erica leaned back, the leather of her chair creaking. She didn't rush to open it. She took a sip of her coffee, black, no herbal blends, no honeyed lies. She picked up the envelope. The return address was a string of numbers followed by a name that once meant sister. Stephanie Miller. Erica pulled out the single sheet of yellowed lined paper. The handwriting, once so elegant when it was forging signatures, was now cramped and desperate. Erica, I know you probably hate me. I get it. But you have to listen. The lawyers here are vultures. They say I have no grounds for appeal because of the digital footprint you left for the feds. I'm looking at 9 more years, Erica. 9 years in a room the size of your old walk-in closet. Jonathan has completely cut me off. He won't even accept my calls. I'm begging you, for the sake of our years at Smith, for the sake of the girl who used to hold your hair back. Please, just $50,000 for a private investigator. I know Malcolm Price has the offshore keys. If I can get to them, I can pay you back double. I can make this right. Please don't let me disappear in here. You were always the kind one, Erica. Don't let this place turn you into him. Erica read the letter twice. She searched her heart for the familiar spark of anger, the heat of betrayal, or even the cold satisfaction of the gala. She found nothing, just a vast, peaceful indifference. Stephanie was still playing the game, still trying to pull the soft touch from behind iron bars. She was still treating people like systems to be hacked, looking for the kindness exploit in Erica's code. But that port was closed. Erica stood up and walked to the corner of the room where a heavy-duty industrial shredder sat. It was the same machine she used to destroy sensitive client data, the kind of machine that turned secrets into confetti. She didn't write a reply. She didn't call the prison to gloat. That would require an investment of energy, and Stephanie was no longer a shareholder in Erica's life. Erica fed the letter into the mouth of the machine. The mechanical growl was short and decisive. The yellow paper vanished, turned into 1,000 meaningless strips of fiber. Stephanie's pleas, her excuses, and her very existence were reduced to packing material. The final erasure wasn't about the arrest. It was about the silence. Erica walked to the window. Down on the beach, she saw her children playing in the surf. They looked strong. They looked free. Every 2 weeks, they went to see Jonathan, who was reportedly living in a modest 3-bedroom condo, attending ego management seminars, and trying to learn the names of the people who actually ran his company. The phone on her desk buzzed. A new client, a whistleblower at a major tech firm who had discovered her CFO was siphoning funds into a best friend's account. Erica sat back down, the blue light of her monitor reflecting in her eyes. She put on her headset, her fingers hovering the keys. "This is Erica Robinson," she said, her voice a powerful, steady hum. "I've looked at the architecture of your data. I can see exactly where the walls are leaning. Don't worry, we're going to take it all down." The ghost was gone. The architect was home. Erica trusted the wrong person and almost lost everything. Tell me, what would you have done in her position? Would you expose everything immediately or wait and destroy them when it hurts the most? Or would you do something worse? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video.